Okay. I was wondering what to read since I've got, 5 minutes here. I have been in Melbourne for the week. I keep a flat here, but I'm based in South Gippsland. And I did a gig at the Melbourne Jewish Writers Festival, and I read a story from Jubilee called Tea, which is lyrical, etc., but dark, as are a number of the stories in here. So I thought I would read something silly, since A, I am silly, and B, I'm hoping that it will be, light and fun. It's a story called Fairy Tale, which to my utter amazement was shortlisted for the World Fantasy in the year 1897. The idea of the story, because I'm just going to stop when the clock goes boink. It's told from the point of view of a Jewish stand-up comedian in the Borscht Belt. And the Borscht Belt is being taken over by the unseen court. That being, leprechauns, Glasskins, you name it, that's happening. So, I'll just go for a while and do a little shtick, and then we'll get some serious.
It's well, I'm not good at funny, so thank God.
I'm not good at it either, but it's just that, if you can't laugh with me, you can always laugh at me. This is a fairy story. Not that kind, stummy. Fairies, as in goblins and Glaston and Sullycoats, or for the rest of you non-Jews, as in leprechauns. I've seen them all and almost died in the doing. That's what this story is all about. Moshe Dayan was not the only Jewish hero you might know. My name is Moshe Menken, not related to the HL of the same surname, and I'm a comedian by trade. I'm kind of a permanent fixture at the Rachmanis Resort. That's in the heart of the Borscht Belt, near Liberty, and right off Old Route 17. This is in upstate New York, for you guys who New? Do I detect some little condescension back there? Well, let me tell you, this isn't such a bad place as resorts go. It's not like it was in the old days, of course, when we had the Concord and Grossingers, but this is the best you get now. I make a living wage here, which is better than most of my peers can muster. In the old days, we could use good material. We could be funny then. I mean, really funny. Not what you call funny. Now everything's so uptight that even the Jews can't take a joke. Everybody's afraid. God forbid they should laugh at themselves. So we give the schleppers what they want, like Polish and fraud jokes. Yes, the Poles are the true heroes of America. They can take a joke and prosper. But you always want one more Polish joke, right? Americans love Polish jokes. Okay, Stubby, everybody knows that European and South American banks have taken over the country. You see them everywhere, right? But have you ever been to a Polish bank? They have a new policy. You give them a toaster and they refund you $300. Ha ha. That's what you pay for. You deserve it. The fraud joke, the oldest one still gets a laugh. Can you believe that? Oh wait, someone doesn't know the fraud joke. What's green and red and goes 60 miles an hour?
Oh no.
Go figure it out. All right, now I'll tell you about Shir Shajub Mills. He's the one who got me into all this fairy trouble in the first place. Nobody knows what Shir Shajub means. Oh, he got the name because he's not telling. He likes to be called Hub, and he's as Jewish as bacon. Pure wasp, yet he smells from herring and speaks a passable Yiddish, which is mostly a shtick. He was born on a shuttle in Galatia. That's how come the Yiddish. Hub is not quite 6 foot tall, but he lies about his height and his age. I also have a Yiddish glossary.
Which is hilarious.
And I'm an atheist, but I'm a cultural Jew. So just giving you a little, I'm not trying to convert you to the unseelie court here while we're. Has gray frizzy hair, a pot belly, and a beautiful girl always on his arm. How he does that is beyond me. He says it's the meat, and the motion. It certainly could be the money. For your information, I'm 5'2"3/4". I'll get that out of the way. That means I'm short. And I do not have frizzy hair and a pot belly. I'm tough, scrappy, and told that I'm quite handsome in a goyish way. Big blue eyes, squarish, strong face, cleft in my chin. You get the picture. There was a time when I could do this shtick and actually, get away with it. Hub still works and lives at the Grob's Resort, a third-rate club with some decent skiing, which has kept it alive. At one time, the Grubs did quite well, as attested by its many bungalows and central houses, all stone. The old wooden barn, where stores used to be kept, caved in years ago and still sits there, like in the field, like an old gray hat. Every few months, I get the urge to see Hub. He's like lumpfish caviar, good once in a while, but every day fat. So last month, I got the urge and called, and this is what I got. Hello, Diana, this is Moishi Mencken. Connect me with Hub Mills' room. I love you. Silence on the line. Perhaps she was overwhelmed. Hello, Diana. I'm sorry, but we're closed. That said in a voice that was unmistakably Diana's, but so cold I felt a chill. If you would like to leave your address, we will. What are you, a recording? I asked. Cut the crap, Diana. This is Moishi, your little Moishi. Now let me speak to Hub. Click. That's all, just like that. And I stood there with the phone still to my ear as the chills went up and down. This wasn't Diana, I knew that. The Grobs couldn't be closed. When a resort closes, everybody knows. It's like a telepathic hotline. And certainly Hub would have told me if such a thing had happened. It wouldn't take me but 5 minutes to reach the Grubs and find out what was what. I had a few hours before I had to perform at 8. Nobody screws around with Moishe Mencken, I said into the dead phone. Just wait. So I put the phone down already, I told myself, but I couldn't move. Not a muscle. I was in some kind of a trance, like a dream. Until 7:30, I stood there. Later, I couldn't remember a thing. But oi, did my right arm ache. I had just enough time to dress and go downstairs and do the show, tuxedo with studs and all. I had a splitting headache, like I sometimes get from drinking wild turkey. Good stuff, mind you, but gives me a migraine on the left side. I wondered why my right arm was numb. Maybe it had fallen asleep. Because the crowd was small, what else is new? I had to perform in the bronze room. Can you imagine a room with tin walls and red velvet chairs? It was enough to embarrass even the nouveau riche. Then I shot an hour at the bar with Finney, the barkeep, who looks like everyone's bald uncle who plays the stock market, and a bellboy talking about the old days. The bellboy wasn't old enough to remember the Manhattan riots, much less the good times, but we always made a show of impressing him with how good it was. I wasn't that good then, just better than now. No, I still didn't remember the phone call business. Wasn't it enough that the crowd was a bunch of pictures and all the demons of Gehenna were banging on my skull? After a while, Finney asked about Hub. He was the only person I ever met who called him Shirzep Hub. Got knew it was like waking from a dream. Suddenly I could remember, but everything wasn't all right. I was still for a shot at a little Meshuggah, ready to go to the funny farm. I could not speak Hub's name. God, did I try over and over. But every time I tried, I had a terrible compulsion to say all the Yiddish words that start with S, which is akin to listing the 9 million names of God. Shabbat, Shachla, Shachin, Shlach, Shlabil, Shlep, Shlach, Shlum, Shmo, Shmuck, Schneider, Schnook, Shagit, Shadel, Shekel, Shmazel, Shik. Hey, Moshe, Finney said, reaching across the bar and shaking my shoulder. Shik, Shiksa, Shmazel, Shmatas. Moshe, hey, enough already. Are you all right? Come on. I'm all right, I said. I'm all right. But I wasn't, as you can see. I was under some kind of a spell. But how could this be? This was New York, not Moravia. I took the hint. If I started trying to talk about Hub, I would only start with the list again. So with great presence of mind, I excused myself after liberating Finney of some more of his wild turkey, screw the headache, and I went out to my car. Of course, my lousy luck, it wouldn't start. Back inside, It took a good half hour to convince Finney that indeed I was all right, had not been drinking that much, and yes, I would gas up his verstinkener car and take good care of it. I'll be back in less than an hour, if you please. I took old 17. The Winding Ways, it was nicknamed. There was no one else on the road, which was unusual, but not that unusual. Finney had a convertible, a real antique, and the top was down. It was the kind of night to look up at the stars while a beautiful girl did unmentionable things to you in the front seat. The main house at the Grubs, which I could see when I was off the highway, was lit up like a bingo parlor. Something fishy on Mott Street. Everywhere else it was dark. Except for a flickering light near the old wooden barn, I stopped the car and watched. It was most certainly the phenomenon known as ignis fatuus. You see, I'm no dummy. Otherwise known as will-o'-the-wisp. But who knows from will-o'-the-wisp in Kashanka, New York? Something about all this bothered me. The directions didn't seem right. Everything seemed somehow placed wrong. It was what my mother, may she live many more good years, would call a Goslin night. But I was wasting time here. If Hub was around, he'd be at the bar in the main house. Then a voice called my name. Hub, I answered. It sure sounded like it, but I was wary after that Diana business. Maybe I was talking to spooks again. I couldn't believe that either. I'd been under a lot of strain lately. Maybe the whole damn thing was a loose cog in my head. Again the voice called. It was Hub's voice. It wasn't so delirious that I couldn't recognize the voice of my best friend. The dumb son of a bitch had probably bought himself a bottle of cheap wine and was getting bent up in the woods. It didn't take much to get Hub drunk. He had emphysema and still smoked like hell and took pills, which dried out his lungs. Mix the booze with the pills, then you have a cheap drunk. Maybe he was out here getting laid. Out of the question. He always said that he was born in a bed and not in a bush. He didn't want any of that country bumpkin prickers in your ass stuff. But how could I tell it was me? I was driving Finney's car. It was dark. So what would you have done? Sit like a schlemiel, tell yourself you were hearing things again? So you have no chutzpah. I went to investigate. And found a very drunk Jersey shop sitting like a toad on a rock in front of a dying fire. So I was wrong about the will-o'-the-wisp, sue me. Behind him were two huge oak trees. Their branches grotesquely twisted together. There was a log for the fire beside him. Nearby was another log and some kindling. Remember that, it's important. We will get to that, but remember it anyway. Hello, diminutive person, Hub said, slurring his words. He leered at me as if I were jailbait. What brings you here? I wanted to see you, dummy. How did you know it was me? I didn't. Well, you called my name. You must have known something. Nope. You didn't call my name? Uh-huh, but I'm glad you're here. Then he offered me his bottle, which I politely refused. Come on, there'll be none left soon. That wasn't like Hub. The Hub I knew and loved wouldn't drink out of a glass that had been used by his mother, much less share a bottle with me. Okay, that's enough, I said. I'm taking you home. Don't come near me, Hub said, rocking back and forth on his rock, chuckling. My mother calls it that. It's what the old men do when they pray next to you in the shul. It's a Jewish machismo. Who can rock back and forth the fastest? Maybe it helps shoot the prayers up to heaven. Anyway, I stopped where I was. He had said it like he meant it. Then he stopped chuckling, picked up the log that he kept beside him, and then broke it in half over his knees. I didn't believe it either, but seeing is believing. What are you, training to be a masher, I asked. He placed the log on the fire, which soon came alive. It was getting a little cool, and the warmth and light and crackling of the fire felt good, almost reassuring. Not bad, huh? Hub asked, taking another sip. It's a trick, like tearing telephone books. The log was rotten. Very good, I said, impatient to get out of there. Now let's sit down and be humble, and I'll tell you a story. I've heard enough stories for one day. When I called the Hotel Diane of the big boobs, didn't know who I was, and told me the place had closed and wouldn't let me speak to. And that's it.